All right, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to the mental application study for this week. I trust you all and we all had a beautiful week. Good evening, everyone. All right, so we are starting already, and then we're just taking some few minutes to just have a proper introductory before we jump right into the class. All right, so welcome once again to the mental application. Like I said earlier, if you are just joining this platform or you're just transiting with us from our Telegram channel right into this platform right now, I want to say a big welcome to you. Welcome to the mental application on YouTube. And if you're wondering, like, okay, we used to be on Telegram some while back and we had all of our live classes on Telegram, but recently we are transiting into, or we have transited into the YouTube space. And then welcome to the family, welcome to the tribe, welcome to the mental application study platform. It's going to be an amazing time literally with us. What is the mental application all about? The mental application is a platform to raise and develop sentinel beings and super intelligent humans. What does that mean? Individuals that use their mental capacitation for productivity, applying their minds for profitable endeavors, creating bespoke solutions to industries and platforms. Are we still together? Basically, we talked about from knowledge to success, how to use what you know. And it was a very beautiful class. You can check up the class in the link that is popping up to you right now. How to use what you know from knowledge to success. So this is a continuation of that class. Tonight we're going to be talking about how to trade knowledge, monetizing what you know. How to trade knowledge, monetizing what you know. Now, this is one caveat I want to state before we start the class. This class is not, one of the many classes out there monetizing what you know as, either digital product or, Amazon Kindle services and all of those things. No, this is not that class. This is not that kind of class, okay? This is genuine creative and innovative solution class. Does it make a lot of sense? Okay, so tonight we want to talk about knowledge in a dimension that you might not be so conscious of. Knowledge in a dimension that successful individuals have plied, this path that successful individuals have plied, maximizing and trading knowledge. And that is what we want to consider this evening. Are we still together? Okay, so the first thing we're going to jump right at is just a brief introductory to what knowledge is. Are we still together? And I have a very short quote here that says, we are all in the game of trading knowledge. And this quote is going to make a lot of sense shortly. But in the meantime, just hold on to this quote in your heart somewhere, that we all are in the game of trading knowledge. We all are. The world, the entire system is in a game of trading knowledge. The only commodity, I was communicating to those that were in class last week, and if you listen, that the only commodity that is traded in this realm, of course, is value. People say value is the only commodity traded, but value is on the pedestaling of something called knowledge. Value is not vague. Value is not a a concept that cannot be explained. Value is actually from the stem of point of knowledge. So it is what you know that becomes value, and it is what that that value that now becomes tradable assets. Does it make you a lot of sense? So value, true knowledge is what becomes value that is now traded either as products or services. Are we still together? So I did a simple explanation on what knowledge is right here. So what is knowledge? What is knowledge? What is knowledge? I said here and I said knowledge is information that is interpreted, correlated, and understood in relation to other information and experiences. Hence, knowledge is actionable information. Now, this might look like a whole lot of grammatic constructions. No, that's not the aim. And this class is a mental. Never forget that this class is a mental development class. So you require a heightened mental capacity. I'm not saying you have to be some mad genius to understand the class, but you need to, number one, first be conscious of what you're learning, and then be open-minded. Does it make a lot of sense? So knowledge is information, but information and knowledge is not the same thing. Basically, information is a piece of data. Are we still together? Information is basically data, literally. So that is, information is data, either in its raw form and all of those things. Now, but knowledge is that data interpreted, correlated, and understood in relation to other kind of data. So knowledge is not just something I read off a book. Because you read something of a book does not mean you have the prerequisite knowledge of that thing. Knowledge is far beyond, okay, I read. And this is the challenge, this is the problem that we currently have right now, where people have information and think that they have knowledge. So an average person think they can thrive on information, but in actual truth, you really cannot thrive on information, because information is generic data in quotes. Does it make you? So what makes you thrive basically is knowledge. And what is knowledge? I wrote here in simple terms, knowledge is information that has become your reality. Knowledge is a kind of information that has, how do I say this better that it makes a lot of sense? That you have encompassed. It's very hard to explain, but the kind of knowledge that you have enveloped, and the knowledge is now almost or an extension of your being. Does it make a lot of sense? So when you ask, when people say, I know this thing, it's not like an information I read. Like, I have a life that can do this thing. That is what, so it's just like someone that says, I know how to cook. Is different from that person saying I know how to cook is probably going to be a chef, not someone that read a cooking menu or a cooking recipe and is trying and say, okay, and read from the list two cup of cinnamon and added 2 cup of cinnamon, and then the entire thing is purple. You understand? Now that other person is information bound because he's trying to pick up data to utilize, and that is where a whole lot of persons are. Schools are not, gone are the days where schools are that platform to engineer knowledge. And this is, we're going to get there down the line. This is the reason why people go to school. The reason why you go to school is to develop knowledge, not consume information. And then the way I see these things, people have, let's imagine this is an average individual. We have information that is not digested. So people don't know what to do with those things, and they're trying to regurgitate information back just to pass an examination and come out empty, no knowledge formed. Does it make a lot of sense? And then they now look at life helplessly and they're like, what will I do? Because the funny thing is, when I used to say this to students when they're out of universities and all of those things, and maybe all of that, and then people come to me and say, sir, I'm out of school now, what should I do? And the first question I ask is, what do you know? Because it's not, and when you ask them what do you know, people are always so fast to go to information, not knowledge. So they say, what do I know? I know mathematics. I know stores, and I know book, that kind of stuff. I wasn't asking you what book do you know. I wasn't asking you information. People even quote certain courses that they did in school and say, I know I know G something something, and you that's not the idea. The real concept of, because if you know something, you shouldn't ask what should I do. You do what you know. Basically, there is a saying, I'm sure you've heard of this saying before that says, do what you know, and not in the falling sense where you do what you like. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Not in that falling sense of doing what you like and do it, do. The idea is, do what you know on the strength of what has become your reality, what you have enveloped, the kind of information you allow into you, and then not just keeping the information, but processed. And then this information now became your reality. So on the strength of who you have become with that, who you have becoming one in fusion or intimacy with that knowledge, you now become the knowledge is not separated from you. You are that knowledge. You are that body of knowledge. Does it make you sense? So on the strength of that thing, then you can do something. Does it make you a lot of sense? So this is the kind of knowledge people don't know, and this is the kind of knowledge that what is it called? That is monetized. This is the kind of knowledge that is being traded on the face of the earth. I'm not talking about you did, maybe you learned a skill, you now did digital marketing so you can get some 2K, you now did a digital marketing course. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about information products. I'm not talking about, just wrap up 3 courses together and put it online and say, come and buy my course. No, I'm talking about the life you're going to live. This type of information, or this type of knowledge, forgive me, is what is transacted in industries. The reason why you are employed is because of the knowledge you have become, not the information. That is why, you see people and then, interviews, and who has not become one with a kind of knowledge. So they ask, and the guy keeps answering back with information, and the HR look at him and say, we can't hire you. And they won't say it to your face directly, but you are not one with this thing. This is not your reality. So it's just like someone that studied maybe Yoruba, in school, Nigerian university, and then wants to apply for a bank job. You are not. It's just the level of corruption that allows you to be employed. But in real context, you are not one with that reality. You will make a lot of mistakes, except if your knowledge scope will be re-engineered by the institution, and then you have to undergo a training again. Does it make a lot of sense? We are all in the game of trading knowledge. This is the kind, is not book. Is what book is the aftermath of book. Is not, wow, that guy sabi when he did school. Is the aftermath. Like, what did that information metamorphose into in you? It's just like someone that knows physics. Let's say, for instance, you know physics so well, and then it's not that physics that is traded. If you want to trade this information of physics, the best thing you can be is be a teacher. No insults to the teaching profession. That's my profession either way. So I'm not throwing stones. Well, the best thing you can be is be a teacher, because that's where you can now trade back information. But somebody understood physics and built laws and theories. Somebody understood physics and built solar products. That's the knowledge that is traded. So it's not the product that is traded, it's the knowledge. Somebody said something and said, I think it was an artisan quote that says, if maybe your car got spots, and then I got there and I spent maybe just 10 minutes fixing the car. You are not paying me for the 10 minutes I used on the car. You are paying me for the bulk of knowledge that it took to understand how to fix that kind of thing. That's what knowledge, that's what is traded. I'm not talking about, you see what I'm doing now, it's not information product I'm talking about. That bulk of knowledge that made me who I am, that I can fix that car in 10 minutes. It doesn't matter how angry you are and say you only spend 10 minutes, how will I pay you that much? You are not paying me for that 10 minutes. You are paying me for that knowledge that I have become one, reality, metamorphosed. Do you understand what I'm trying? So this kind of knowledge an average person does not have. So if you ask people, what do you know? You will see people come up empty. Does it make a lot of sense? So somebody understood physics. Can you see that now? There is that physics is first an information. It is when this information now comes into you, processed, you become one with that information, it now metamorphoses into that knowledge body, that being. Then that individual metamorphose that thing, then now came up with a kind of knowledge and says, on the strength of what I know, let's build a solar panel. But the funny thing is, that guy was not the only one in class. You see what I'm saying now? So everybody interacted with that body of information separately. Only few metamorphosed into not that knowledge capacity. And on the strength, see, everything said and done, the only thing that is traded on this earth realm is knowledge. I will see you together. And I don't want to get into talking about the spectrums, the 7 spectrums of knowledge. That's gonna bore you if you are given to research like myself. You can do that. We have explicit knowledge, implicit knowledge, tacit knowledge, declarative knowledge, derived from their Greek, what is it called? Greek meanings, gnosis, gnosko, eido, episteme, you can study those things if you have the time, but we won't be doing that. This is just a practical class. I don't want to bore you with all of the information, so I will see you together. Let's move on. So our next page, I wrote here and I said, why is knowledge so important? Why is knowledge so important? Why is knowledge so important? Why is not information? Why is knowledge? Why is knowledge so important? Like that body of being you're going to become. Why is it important? I said here and I said, every day knowledge is being traded. See, if you understand what I'm trying to communicate tonight, you would find out that you are not in a market space of anything works. Not anything works. What works is the knowledge that you can trade. When you are coming into the marketplace of life, industries, for instance, my name is TOMISIN OGUNTOLU. By the special grace of God, I happen to be, the lead, anything you want to call it, at Beyond the School Wall. When we get into the marketplace of the education industry, what you trade is the knowledge that you had become. That is what is being traded. Does it make you? So I said and I said, every day knowledge is being traded. Are we still together? Every day knowledge is being traded as job offers, value systems, startup ideas, multi-billion-dollar deals across every industry and facet of human living, from time past till present day. From the first time, from even God, when God was going to come to the face of the earth for the first time, the first thing he declared was, let there be light. And of course, light is information, light is knowledge, forgive me. Are we still together? I hope somebody understands the energy that is being communicated in this class. We age by light, we grow by light, and knowledge is in Kada and all of those things. I don't want to go deeply into these things, but knowledge is what has been traded. God came in his fullness and capacity and traded knowledge with I almost said something. But light and darkness both are knowledge. Does it make a lot of sense? Are we still now everyday knowledge? If we break this down into codes and then the matrix system, I think we have a teaching on the mental application study on that's what is it called? Our e-resource library on Telegram. You can just search Beyond the School Wall e-resource, just search Beyond the School Wall on Telegram and you'll get access to our e-resource library. There's a teaching on the matrix. You really want to listen to it, trust me. Now, every day, knowledge is being traded as job offers. The reason why they gave you a job or you'll be given a job, it doesn't matter how many places you applied. The reason, I found out that the reason why people are turned down at the places where they want to go get a job is not first because demons are following you. Well, that might be one of the reasons, but it's not totally all of that. Is that you are not that job is a knowledge role. You are not that knowledge role of that, so there's nothing to trade. Does it make sense? Are we still together? Is everyone still with me? So everyday knowledge is being traded as job offers, value systems, startup ideas. Somebody is going to, somebody knows something and that knowledge became a startup idea. See, this life, understand that I'm speaking from a place of truth. What is traded is knowledge. Now, that knowledge can now be made into a product or a service. The reason why you're going to be employed as an accountant, there is a job offer accounting role. The reason why you are employed is because you went to a school system, remembered? That's the reason, that's the reason why you're on this class. The reason why you're trying to get information here and there is because you want to morph into a kind of, that is why, if there is no reason to morph into a kind of knowledge being, there is something called a knowledge, but I don't want to talk about that. Is if you're not trying to morph in, why are you trying to learn up anything? What is the essence? I asked myself a simple question one of those times, and I asked myself, what is the essence of school? Like, what is the reason for school? And I came to a point where the reason why we go to school is because you want to develop a knowledge to trade. It's not to get information. It's not about the classes. All of those things are processes to get you to that point where you now morph into that knowledge, and then you now have a knowledge to trade. So I come to a point where I studied, accounting in school and all of those things. I studied all of the many things, and then it came to a point I know so much, and then I have morphed into it. And and one thing knowledge does is knowledge brings you to the point of solution provision. So you know from the accounting principles you've learned, okay, if we do this thing this way and this way, and then you come to the point and say, let's build a fintech company. I say, okay, what is the fintech company going to do? The fintech company is going to solve this issue around payments, gateways, and all of these things. You're like, wow. And people like, more these things, God just gives some people and didn't give some people. It's not true. Certain persons have known that this life we came to is a trading of knowledge. We came here to trade knowledge. And the people that get the wealth are people that trade the most. Does it make you a lot of sense? So I wrote here and I said the only reason there is interaction with humans, the only reason people talk to themselves, are we still together? The only reason why people the only reason why you are interacting, you don't know me, many of you have not seen me before, you don't even, since my face is not even on this platform, so you are even wondering who is this person talking. Now the only reason why we are interacting is because we are here to peddle knowledge. So I am peddling knowledge as a service. That is why you came here. If there was no peddling of knowledge, I'm not talking information. All of these words I'm saying right now are information, but this platform, the mental application study, is a knowledge product. Do you understand what I'm trying to say right now? So this knowledge product is a solution, and that is what you're trading. It might not give financial, remuneration right now, but it's giving visibility as a remuneration. So that is what everyone is trading. So the question I used to get to ask people at the long run is, what do you know? We're going to get there, because you come to a point and you ask yourself, all of the information I've garnered over the years, what is this information turning into? What is this information becoming? Does it make you a lot of sense? I've said many times that there is a difference between, and I said it at the beginning of the class, that there is a difference between having information about something and knowing something. There's a difference between saying, using words like, forgive this please. There's a difference between saying, I know how to cook. I know how to cook. Forgive that. I know how to cook. Now, this I know how to cook can turn into a whole lot of stuff. This I know how to cook can become a food business. You see that now. Can become a food startup company that sells, food condiment and all of those things. This knowledge can become anything. Then I have information on how to cook. I've read books that, can teach people how to cook. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? Are we still together? So I know how to cook is an opening to solve a whole lot of problems. That's it. I have information on how to cook. Your information is because you read something somewhere. You have either have a cookbook or you used to watch food tutorials online. I say, I have information on that. And you know the funny thing, people mix these two statements together. So because somebody say I know how to cook does not mean they have that knowledge to trade. Most times it means they have information. So if you say, you know how to cook, okay, can you cook? I'm not so good with cuisines and dishes. Well, let's just say, can you cook maybe an Italian dish? And the person say, no, I don't know how to cook Italian. Now, you really do not know how to cook. You don't know how to cook. You only have information about certain dish. I can put water on fire and then I can make a bath. I know you say, but I know how to cook. That's not knowing how to cook. If you know how to cook, you will know how to make all cuisines. And if you know how to make all cuisines, you can pitch to get someone to invest in you to start a food, a food restaurant, like a proper international food cuisine restaurant. And this is how people, because that is what you're trading. That's what people, and remember, trading is an exchange. Is the concept of buying and selling is exchange. So that's what people buy. It's not all this stuff people say, I'm looking for the next business idea. The question is, what do you know? And if you come to the standpoint where you don't know anything, then there is a need to go back and then go and reform yourself. Does it make a lot of sense? let's move on so that we don't waste all of the time. We're trying to make the classes extremely short, but I believe you got value for time tonight. Okay, now before you can monetize knowledge, I said as a product or service, because knowledge has to become, we said it in the last class, that knowledge has to become a product or service forgive that, before it can be monetized. Knowledge is you. Does it make it? Knowledge on the long run, after it's metamorphosed and you have become one, and knowledge is you, until you now make that into a product and a service that is convertible, is still not profitable. Does it make a lot of sense? So this is still a part one of these things. Are we still? This is still a part one of these things. We're going to have a part two next week so that it's properly understood and all of that. But before you can monetize knowledge as a product or service, you actually have to know something. Now, the question is, what do you know? In context, especially industry bound, what do you know? Not what did you study? What did that study become as a knowledge metamorphosing? What did you become out of that knowledge? Does it make a lot of sense tonight? Like, what did you become out of that knowledge? Who did you become out of that knowledge? Now, when we talk about the concept of what you know, let's do a little bit of something on this regards. Now, when you talk about what you know, remember we said what you know is information processed, right? Now, what kind of information have you exposed? Now, I really do not want to do this for people, because, this is the world and the reality of the world we live in right now. People now want to talk, people want you to do the entire thing and then just give them the digested form. Now, I remember when I was younger, like very, very young, and then I happened to still be with my parent, and then everybody was young then. And we had a kind of financial crisis literally in the home, and it was very, very serious, severe, very, very severe. So, we had a family meeting. And I'll never forget that family meeting, because that family meeting is one of the things that brought out this dimension of me, literally. If someone had told me so many years back that I was going to be a teacher and I was going to teach, I literally would have fought that, because, come on, I really don't like teachers. While I was in school, I believed, while I was in secondary school, that is, I believe teachers know so much, but they don't want to tell you, so you fail so that they can punish you. You get that kind of idea, okay? So we had a family meeting, and the family meeting went this way, and we started asking ourselves questions like, what can you do? It wasn't like this, because assuming I knew this stuff then, it would have helped me, and my family is very beautiful. My mom is a fashion person. She sews. She has always been sewing before we were born. And out of all of my family members, all of my siblings took up into that. They have fashion, knowledge. They could sew while they were young and all of those things. And I was the only one that was odd, because I just couldn't imagine myself doing bang, 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 bang. I didn't see myself doing it together. But I was always given to books. I read a lot. When I was in school, I read a lot. I mean, terribly. I don't know why, because I just love knowledge. And don't let me lie to you. It's not as if I like book like that. But that was my only solace. I grew up kind of, what is it called? Reclusive. I was just on my own, in my own space. So the only thing that gave me comfort were books, especially novels and storybooks and materials that were engaging, newspapers, because my dad used to work at a publishing firm then, so it comes in with a whole lot of newspapers. So I read newspapers a lot, but I don't like school book. And even till date, I think I still have issues with school books, because come on, I hardly read my school books, like physics, all of that, those things. But I loved extra, maybe that's why God even committed to my hand beyond the school, because if it's within the school, I no go do. Okay, just kidding. Anyways, now, so I love all of those. I love anything, knowledge-bound information, that kind of stuff. So we're asking ourselves, what are we going to do? Because my dad lost his job at that time, and then we had to provide. And I was young. I just got out of secondary school. So the question is, what am I going to do? I didn't know what else to do. The only thing I knew how to do, because I didn't know how to go sell, hawk stuff. I was a very shy person, so I don't know how to hawk. Like, God forbid, I will run away. I'll just start eating the idea and start begging for money, But I knew, okay, I have all of. So somebody suggested, one of my mom's customers then just said, don't Tosin, they call me Tosin, you know, say man, Kawi, call teach now. So it looked weird to me, like teach, like okay, that was like me coming out of my shell, and I really didn't like it, that kind of stuff. So I was like, let me just give it a try. And I've always wanted, teaching for me was not a career path. It was just what I was forced to do, that kind of stuff. I've always wanted to be a financial person. Are we still together? I've always wanted to be a financial person, I've always wanted to be a financial person down the line and all of those things. But so I got into teaching, and first year, second year, the more I kept, teaching, as year went on, as days went on, it became more interesting. Like, not interesting like I like him. It started unraveling the kind of person I was. And, so I literally became a teacher just before beyond the school. Now, my younger brother could sew so well, like so well. So he started a fashion brand, very beautiful fashion brand. He started a fashion brand, and then before you know it, between a couple of persons, there was some basic funds coming into the family. I'm not saying that is. I'm just trying to help you understand how what you know can be traded. He's not like he reads fashion. He just had that knowledge dimension for fun. It's not like he is a multi-onwa. Of course, he learns from my mom, and after a while, it just evolved into that kind of stuff. Does it make you a lot of sense? That is what knowledge is. That is because it's first information. When I was growing, I was interested in reading magazines, reading all of those things. I didn't know what I was doing to myself, but I was evolving into. Now, if you ask me literally, what can you do? I can teach. If I'm not supposed to say this, but if I'm looking for capital urgently, if I'm looking for urgent capital, the first thing I'm going to look into is what can I teach? Literally, because that's strength for me. Doesn't mean not that I'm now teaching to get money. Of course, there's the business side of all of these things. But if I'm looking for literally, if I'm looking, just trying to get some quick funds to get something done, okay, what can I put together and then teach this thing, and then, of course, not rush work and then destroy people's life. I'm always scared teaching people, because one of the times I had an interaction with God, there was this scripture that says, whoever makes any of these little ones is better that a milestone was tied on his neck and he was thrown. So since then, I've been scared what I teach people, extremely scared. Literally, if the principles do not work, I don't teach them. Does it make sense? So this is what knowledge being is. Is more wilder than all of this stuff, but I don't want to unnecessarily elongate this class. But that is what the knowledge being is. Does it make sense? The kind of individual that can evolve, or that has evolved through information garnered. So the question is, what do you know? I will leave you with that question tonight. As you ruminate over it, I think that's the word, ruminate over it. Next class, we're now going to have a part 2 of this, and by then, it's now more formulated in you. You're coming back to the class next week. What do I know? These classes are going to be short. We're not trying to make them extremely long. It's just a short study. As we keep seeing that you engage them more, then we'll now start making them longer. For now, it's just short classes. Then it becomes longer later on. Does it make sense? I'm leaving you with this consciousness, or this statement, literally in your heart. What do you know? What do you know? Because it is what you know that will be traded, literally. Next week, we're going to now talk about how to monetize what you know. But tonight, what do you know? I believe you had a beautiful time tonight, and then you got value for your minutes spent with us, literally. I believe you really got value. If you have questions, you could put them in the comment section. Trust me, they are going to be answered, literally. Or you can just send them directly to our emails, and then all of the information being displayed on your screen right now, you could interact with them to get those, interact with our emails, interact with our spaces, link tree, our link directory, our social spaces, get into our archives and all of that. Thank you so much for participating tonight. literally, okay, I think it's important that you like, share, and comment on this video for more visibility. Intentionally share this to someone that needs it, and then I get to see you next week. Thank you. Have a beautiful night rest. See you next week.